I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Bill Rako. I'm the president of the board, and I'm the acting general manager. The first order of business here is appointments, and the Master of Arms is Chief Dave Massey. The parliamentarian is our legal counsel, Joseph Moore, and our teller is Diane McGraw, the chair of the elections committee. Is back there. All right. You all should have a copy of the agenda. So I'd like to have a motion to approve the agenda as written. Second? Second. All in favor? Aye. It's approved. We have a presentation now, which is traditional, by Mike Howell, our Director of Recreations and Parks. Mike? You may have this.
Good morning to everybody. Good to see the turnout here this morning. It is my pleasure to present the Sam Wilkinson Volunteer of the Year Award. And this came about, Sam Wilkinson was an 8-year-old that lost his life falling through the ice at Northside Park in Ocean City. His grandparents live here in Ocean Pines and came to us 7-8 years ago and wanted to have a Volunteer of the Year Award chosen by the Recreation Department. So this is our 8th season to have the Volunteer of the Year Award. So if you didn't realize why or how that came about, that's a little bit of history. He was 8 years old and fell through the ice in Ocean City. Our Volunteer of the Year is moved here with her husband, or started coming down here with her husband in 1969. They bought a lot here in 1971. Her husband retired in 1987 and they moved down here permanently, and that's when Irene started joining the various clubs of Ocean Pines. Pat Camps retired from being an instructor, and Pat asked Irene to take over the direction of the Swimmin' Women. Irene says that the directing that group has been one of the most rewarding periods of her life. Irene has hosted English teas, cooking classes, summer picnics, Christmas parties for the group, and Irene's house has been on the garden club tour mainly because of her lovely English roses. Irene and John are moving, and Irene says it is with great sadness we leave this community. She loves Ocean Pines and the people in it. The 2010-2011 Sam Wilkinson Volunteer of the Year Award goes to Irene Roberts.
I think you said it all.
Thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the annual meeting of last year. I'm sure you all have read them and are very familiar with them, right? They're posted over there. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you. The next item is announcements. And I know that our public relations person, excuse me? I'm sorry. Thank you, Diane. Do we have a quorum? Yes.
We do have a quorum, 167.
We needed 100 to establish the quorum. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Diane. I skipped that, didn't I? Okay, the next thing is announcements, and I'd like to make an announcement that on the 5th of August, the Board of Directors decided that we wanted to terminate the agreement with our general manager and seek a new general manager. The next announcement is on the 12th of August. We decided who that new general manager should be, and we approved that appointment effective later on this month on the 12th of August. Now, I must be very careful in explaining the details of why this action was taken. However, I have had many questions, comments, inquiries, objections, and requests for input from the membership, from the press, from committee chairs, and all of that. And I would like to explain to you some of the process and some of the details of this. However, I would rather take the approach of Leah Iacocca and say never complain, never explain. But I think we owe you some feedback to the degree that we can do it, okay? I do have some notes. I haven't got a prepared speech here, but I do have some notes, okay? First of all, I want to let you know that in any agreement with the general manager, we follow the bylaws of the association, and the general manager serves at the pleasure of the board and can be removed at any time. The fact that we acted, I would assume that you would assume that we had not done this idly and, arbitrarily. But I know some of you don't agree with that. This decision had been discussed a year previously by some of the board and a year previous to that by some of the board. And there was no specific instance, there's certainly no wrongdoing, and or no, something that would impugn the character or the integrity of the general manager. I want to make sure that's very clear. While I can't get into the details, it wouldn't be proper, of various reasons of why we felt this way. I want to, it was sort of like the owners of a professional football team, and there's 16 games, and you're 8-8, and the owners decide to replace the quarterback. No one serves and has the right to serve forever. I understand the average general manager in HOAs lasts between 3.5 and 5 years, and no one has the right to serve forever, okay? That's as much as I'm going to say about that. Now, there's been a lot of questions as to why we made, and questions and criticism as to why this board, at the end of the board year, made this decision. We didn't have the right to do this. We should let the next board do it. Well, because we discussed this kind of action in the past years, and because we came to a decision, we felt that this board had an obligation to come to the conclusion and take the action that was done in this board, and not have new board members come in and say, wait a minute, we want to wait until we have our evaluation and be the same position we are next year. That's the reason why we did what we thought was our obligation to do. So we did it. Now, we've had a lot of questions and comments about the replacement process, and why wasn't there a search process, and why didn't we go through the steps that have normally been done for the last at least 2 general managers, okay? And I think you deserve an answer on that, of course. Normally, when this happens, the president of the board steps in and on a voluntary basis fills in for 5-6 months while the search process goes through. And then the new general manager comes in, it's been from outside all the time, and takes a process to learn and all that. So there's a period of turmoil for 6 to 8, 9 months. When we made the decision, before we actually voted, but we made the decision, each of us were thinking about a possible replacement. Now, again, I'm the president of the board. I will not be on the board any more than about an hour from now. But I did not want to accept the position and would not accept the position. Okay? I was asked by a couple of people individually if I would consider that. My wife even said, well, why not? And I said, well, we could do it till Christmas. And then she said, but of course we're still going to Florida in October, aren't we? And I said, well, that's not going to happen. So anyway, so I was eliminated. The obvious next choice was the vice president. And the vice president is fully employed, has a job. So the vice president can't do a full-time job like this and be the acting general manager during a job search. But in discussion of this, it came to my mind that the vice president, Bob Thompson, might be an ideal candidate for the permanent assignment. I'll get to that in a minute. But of course, he couldn't even consider that as a temporary assignment and still do his job, but he couldn't give up his regular job as an acting general manager. It wouldn't be right. And other considerations came up. A permanent employee came up as a possible solution, which I don't think that would have worked. Okay, okay. Anyway, so in this process, which was a process, individual board members sat down with Bob Thompson and talked to him about his qualifications and those kind of things, because initially you say, well, what does he know about this? Okay, so we're looking for a person with the right knowledge, attitude, skills, and habits to fill this job. That decision to appoint Bob Thompson was not made until Thursday. Today's Saturday. It was not made until Thursday morning. Well, it was made in Wednesday evening, but it was signed Thursday morning, after each of the board members had a chance to talk to Bob, interview Bob, and the screening team who picked the last general manager was very upset about this, came in, met with us being Bob and me. I left. They interviewed Bob in detail, and when that interview was over, they told me that they're very satisfied that the candidate that we are considering employing is highly qualified, and it was a good decision. Now let me tell you why we decided Bob Thompson is qualified. Number one, successful businessman. At an early age, he rose to a high position in a financial institution, managed 14 separate locations, more than 120 people, involved in human relations, marketing, financial management, regulatory functions, facilities management, and demonstrated leadership. He left that position because of the time it took to travel around all these various branch offices and do this kind of thing. He wanted to come here and stay closer to Ocean Pines, family matter, all that kind of stuff. Military experience in the Air Force, got out in the reserve component, rose to the highest level he could possibly rise to in 16 years, when that time normally took 22 years. Demonstrated leadership, management skills. And then for the last year, the board has observed through almost daily contact his negotiation skills, his decisiveness, his thoughtfulness, his ability to get along with people, and those kind of things that are hard to evaluate from a distance. And we became convinced that Bob Thompson would not only fill the bill, but fill it well. And the proof's in the pudding. So why not give him the job for 6 months and still do a job search and evaluate other candidates? Well, if we had the guy we thought could do it, we had confidence in him, he's not going to give up his regular job and work here for 6 months, he's not going to do it. So we found the guy, we made the decision, and we did it. You may not agree with that, and I respect that, but we made the decision. And again, even though the agreement, in the agreement contract, it's not a contract, it's an agreement, but it's a binding thing, we have an initial period of 1 year. That doesn't mean that he couldn't be terminated at the pleasure of the board at any time we felt it necessary. What it means is the benefit package, health benefits, et cetera, have to be put down in writing, and those agreements, salary, terms, everything else, in that side of the house are for a period of 1 year. So we can change the decision if we had to. So that's what was done. Some questions. What about his candidacy as a county commissioner? Okay, the 7 commissioners, I believe 5 are fully employed. Is that right, Judy?
I don't know.
Okay, but I believe 5.
Just do my job.
Okay, 5 are fully employed. It's a tough job. It takes a lot of time, but 5 are fully employed. And if you're concerned that Bob Thompson can't do both jobs during the campaign, you need to address that and talk to him about that during the campaign, his campaign for county commissioner. I am also concerned about that because I know this is a full-time job, and it takes a lot of time. And Bob Thompson satisfied the board that he can do both jobs. Okay? What about conflict of interest? I've been told that the county attorney has stated that it is not a conflict of interest. A real estate agent who is a county commissioner might be considered to have a conflict of interest. An employee of the county who's a county commissioner might be considered to be a conflict of interest. We have looked into this, and we do not think it's a conflict of interest. That is an issue for the voters to decide during the campaign, and this is not where the campaign is, okay? So some people might think in Ocean Pines that it's not a negative that a county commissioner, if elected, is the general manager. Some might think that's a good thing. But again, that's a political issue. Bob Thompson intends to resign his position on the board as soon as, or the day before he becomes the general manager. And he told me yesterday that in terms of closing out his business, he believes he can be ready to go by a week from Monday. And I say the sooner the better. So that's the announcements. And we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is reports. Legal report from our attorney, Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. President. On August 8, 2009, which was the last annual meeting, I reported to the membership that the matter of tax liability of the association with respect to certain activities related primarily to the Beach Club in Ocean City was then pending in the United States Tax Court. I reported that based upon a stipulation of facts between Ocean Pines Association and the Internal Revenue Service, no evidentiary hearing would be necessary, and that legal memoranda were due to be filed on August 7th, 1 day before. That memoranda were filed, and Ocean Pines filed a reply brief to the Internal Revenue Service memoranda on September 8th, 2009. So at that time, the case was ripe for consideration by the tax court. To no one's probable surprise, who knows that you deal with the Internal Revenue Service, no further determination has been made to date by the United States Tax Court, so it's still pending. On October 28th and 29th, 2009, a jury trial was held in the Circuit Court for Worcester County on the case of Ocean Pines Association versus SPN Inc., which I reported to you all was pending this time last year. SPN Inc. was a construction management company that had been retained for construction management services on the proposed community center, which was to be constructed in the sports core. The claim of damages on behalf of Ocean Pines Association was $74,050, based upon the allegations that those payments were paid by the association by mistake, and that they should be reimbursed because SPN and Ocean Pines Association had amended the contract, by which a letter provided for a fee on an hourly basis rather than the fixed fee which had been established in the original contract. At the conclusion of the two-day trial, a jury awarded Ocean Pines Association all of the amounts claimed in the lawsuit. Subsequently, an appeal to the Maryland Court of Special Appeals was filed by SPN, claiming that the court had erred, and also a new lawsuit was filed by SPN, claiming compensation for the alleged hourly rate that we had said they had agreed to. However, in return for the dismissal of both the appeal and a dismissal of the newly filed lawsuit by SPN Inc., the association accepted a reduced cash settlement payment rather than spending additional money for legal fees in defending the appeal in the Court of Special Appeals and also defending the newly filed lawsuit. On January 4th, 2010, a trial was held in the case of Ocean Pines Association versus Mid-Delmarva Family YMCA. The lawsuit filed by Ocean Pines in this case alleged that the YMCA violated an agreement entered into in 2002 for the potential construction of a YMCA facility on property adjacent to the southern boundary of Ocean Pines. The case proceeded on a court trial rather than a jury trial before Judge Christian Call, who is a retired Baltimore County judge who was specially assigned the case. Judge Call heard testimony and received evidence presented by Ocean Pines at the trial, and at the conclusion of the case, presented by the association, the judge then heard arguments on a previously denied motion to dismiss, which had been filed by the YMCA, and that motion was renewed at the close of Ocean Pines' case. After deliberating, Judge Call granted the YMCA's motion to dismiss. He rendered his decision verbally from the bench and stated that he accepted the argument set forth in the YMCA's motion to dismiss as the reasoning for his decision. Subsequently, the association filed an appeal to the Maryland Court of Special Appeals. Argument in that case is scheduled before the Court of Special Appeals in the week of March 1st, 2011. What you do in an appeal is a brief will be filed by Ocean Pines Association and a reply brief will be filed by the YMCA. Other than the legal positions set forth in the briefs and the oral argument which will be scheduled in March before the Court of Special Appeals, no further evidence will be heard in the case. The position of Ocean Pines is that Judge Call did not consider all of the obligations required of the YMCA in the agreement between the parties, and that he ignored the evidence that the YMCA's action in utilizing the property did not occur in compliance with the agreement. In summary, the issues that will be presented are whether the trial court failed to consider evidence of the parties' intention with respect to the nature of the facility to be completed by the YMCA. Secondly, whether the trial court failed to consider all the provisions of the agreement between the parties, thereby rendering portions of the agreement meaningless. And last, whether the judge erred in determining that a permit that was obtained by the YMCA 6 years after the agreement for a newly conceived wildlife observation platform fulfilled the YMCA's contractual obligation to obtain a building permit for a YMCA facility, which was stated to be in existence conceptually in 2002. Also, in May, a lawsuit was filed by Marston Furlow, an owner of property in Ocean Pines, alleging that the association had not properly dealt with drainage problems in the area of Mr. Furlow's property. The complaint is for injunctive relief and to abate a nuisance alleged to be caused by the lack of drainage in the area. The association in that case is being defended by insurance counsel under the coverage of our insurance policies. In August, Mr. Furlow filed an amended complaint seeking to join the individual directors of Ocean Pines Association as defendants. I have written a memorandum and submitted it to the board, setting forth the Maryland law provisions regarding indemnity of individual directors of homeowners associations under the law of Maryland. The directors likewise, should they choose to do so, will be defended by counsel of the association. A lawsuit also was filed in the circuit court by Christine Marie Green, alleging a personal injury caused by a former employee of the Ocean Pines Association Public Works Department. That lawsuit, under the coverage of the policies in place by the association, is also being defended by insurance counsel, and a jury trial is scheduled in that case for March 28th and 29th, 2011. A settlement conference in that case is scheduled for February 15th, 2011 in the circuit court. Now, during the last year, 17 cases were submitted to my office related to alleged violations of Architectural Review Committee standards and/or violations of the Declaration of Restrictions. During the year, 10 of those matters resulted in the property owner bringing their property within compliance of the Declaration or the ARC guidelines. 7 cases are now still pending, but we frankly expect favorable resolution in all of those cases. 10 foreclosures related to unpaid assessments are pending in my office. Notice has been sent in 9 of those 10 cases, and unless a payment agreement is reached between the Board of Directors of Ocean Pines and the property owner, those matters will be submitted to foreclosure under Maryland law. However, as of July 1st, 2010, the state of Maryland, in response to the general economic situation in the state, amended its foreclosure law to require in all foreclosures that mediation be provided to the property owner should the property owner request compliance with mediation reports. Regulations for those matters were promulgated by the Code of Maryland Regulations on July 27th, 2010. So it's a brand new regulatory matter. And those regulations have to be followed in the cases pending in the circuit court. Notwithstanding those additional requirements, in the event that agreement is not reached regarding the issues, Ocean Pines Association will foreclose upon the property of the persons who are delinquent in their assessments. And Mr. President, that is the extent of my report.
Thank you. Next will be Chris Hall from Trice Gary Myers, our auditors.
Well, hopefully my report's not as long as Joe's.
Busy year.
Very busy year, it sounds like. Everybody hear me okay? I'd like to start out by saying that the entire report, it's a 40-page document. You can find that on oceanpines.org. There's a link to the 2010 audit report on there in its entirety. So balance sheet, income statement, footnotes, as well as the departments. All 40 pages are included on the website. Once again, we are your independent auditors. We are hired by your board of directors to audit your financial statements to make sure that the numbers are fairly presented in all material respects and give an opinion on those numbers. And that opinion in layman's terms is either clean or it's not clean. So the association received a clean audit report for fiscal year 2010, which basically means your financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. We can't look at every single transaction. You're $29 million in assets and write a lot of checks here. So if we were going to look at every single transaction, we'd be here all year. So we do sampling procedures, which is normal part of the audit process, in order to render our opinion. A couple of highlights for the year: your balance sheet. The association continues to grow. In the prior fiscal year, you were 27, almost 28 million in assets. This year, you're over 29 million in assets. Obviously, as you all ride around, you can see all the buildings, equipment, roads. Your board of directors, your management staff is in charge of making sure all those things are done properly. Of the 29 million, over 18 million is invested in land and buildings, furniture, equipment, and roads. As of April 30, 2010, there was almost $3 million in cash sitting in the bank, as well as $3.7 million in certificates of deposit. Accounts receivable also consisted of about $3.4 million, primarily your dues, which had grown from $2.6 million in the prior year. Fund balance is made up of three numbers, and we'll talk about the operating results. We continue to have three funds: an operating fund, a reserve fund, and a property and equipment fund. The operating fund for the past fiscal year ended the year with $175,000 surplus, which was an improvement of about $330,000 from the prior fiscal year. A couple of factors that make up that: even though membership dues and food and beverage sales, things of that nature, the revenue side was down a little bit. The association, your board of directors, your management team made up for that decrease in revenue with some cost-cutting measures, whether that's hiring freezes, reduction in staff, reduced repairs and maintenance, things of that nature, resulting in a positive $175,000 in your operating fund, which brought our accumulated operating fund deficit down to $310,000 as of April 30, 2010. The reserve fund, the fund balance was $2.4 million in the prior year. As of April 30, 2010, it's a little under $2 million, a decrease of approximately $400,000. A couple factors related to that. Normally, the association receives approximately $400,000 in highway user tax money. That money was not passed on to the county this year. That money was not passed on to the association this year. So the board and your management team did not transfer, since we didn't receive the money. $400,000 was budgeted to go into the reserve fund, but since we didn't receive the money, that money was not transferred to the reserve fund. Your investment in fixed asset fund, your property and equipment, increased by about $1.3 million. The association purchased about $2.9 million in capital assets during the year. Depreciation was about $1.6 million. The difference is an increase of $1.3 million. Your footnotes and your departmental statements look very comparable to the prior year. Some of your amenity operations did have improvements this year. When you look at the departments, your food and beverage operations, you'll see an improvement over the prior year. If you're looking strictly at bottom line, the net revenues over expenses were better than the prior year. So when you add all those three components up, your operating fund, your reserve fund, and your replacement fund, in total, it was about $1 million excess, which is about $330,000 in total improvement over the prior year. Mr. President, that's the report. I'll stick around for a few minutes to see if there's any questions at the end. If that's okay with you?
Yep.
Although not on your agenda, I want to provide a board president report and a acting general manager report. And the first thing I want to discuss is the situation with the 10-year task force and the ongoing plan to rehabilitate our deteriorating facilities. Okay? The 10-year task force, composed of several members, has analyzed. We focused on the swim racket club and got that fixed, but now we're analyzing what to do with the yacht club and the country club. This process is really a staff process. It should rightly be, it is, under the general manager. The general manager has not got the staff. We haven't got a construction expert on staff and a facilities expert on staff. So there's some options that management can take to resolve these problems. We can hire an outside consulting firm to do these kind of things. We can hire an architect or an engineer to do all these functions and report back to us. All these things cost money and may or may not get the results that we want to get. So we formed a, quote, task force of people with building experience and the motivation to help, and attacked it that way. This is not necessarily a perfectly and smoothly functioning way to do things, but we think we've got a lot done in that task force. The task force analyzed the yacht club and came to a conclusion in the spring that it was in the best interest of the community in the long range of the association in the long range view of doing anything major for at least 40 years out, that it was probably best to tear down the yacht club and replace it. And this was pretty much openly discussed in the press and at meetings and things like that. Not a unanimous decision. Some people think we should put another $900,000 into it and rehab it to the degree so it lasts, 10, 15 years. In the last 10 years, we have invested almost $1 million in capital cost in the yacht club. And some of us feel that putting another $1 million into it to last another 10 years or so is not a wise move. Not unanimous, by the way, but that's what some people feel. We went out with a very, very detailed scope, and we went out for design build process. We had several contractors come back. They analyzed the yacht club. Some people said it's not worth rehabbing. Some people said it could be done for a certain price, but in order to rehab that place for the next 40 years, we found that it would cost about $2.1 million thereabouts to do it, to rehab it. We're talking about all new wiring, all new decks, all new this, just so it's going to last, okay? And at the same time, the contractor who gave us the best bid thought that we really ought to rebuild it, So we asked him to come up with the design. And the design was presented to us in its final form on the 19th of May. And we had a board meeting where the task force presented what that place might look like. It was a feasibility study. If you're going to rebuild it again, what might it cost on a notional design? And everybody was really impressed. The board, not everybody, but most people, the board was generally impressed. And the committee chairs who were there were generally impressed. And this is a no-brainer, let's move forward. Well, we had just seen that design for the first time that night. And people on the committee like Ted Maroney, Ted, are you here? Ted's here. And me and some others said, let's step back and let's take a real look at this, because I looked at the design and, for example, you couldn't even see the Osprey Point area or part of Ocean Pines. So we decided to step back and take another look. We've been criticized for that because, you changed your decision. I don't care. We could take criticism. This is a staff function. People have perceived that the task force is a board matter because board members are on it, but we're really doing staff work down here, and we're going to change our mind as more data comes in, okay? And that's not a bad process. That's a good process, in my opinion. So we said, let's step back, let's reanalyze, let's make sure that we present this to the membership. What we really want to do, we tie the country club in. Because how can we decide what we're going to do over at the yacht club and spend a lot of money without at least sharing with the membership what we intend to do with the yacht club, the country club? Doesn't that make sense? Makes sense to me. So we backed off, okay, and we're relooking. Now the 10-year task force came up with some alternatives, big yacht clubs, small country clubs, small, various things, looked at a lot of factors. From parking to views to environmental considerations to footprints and all that kind of stuff, and came back with a recommendation a couple of weeks ago that we go with the big yacht club, catering at the yacht club, and a smaller country club. The task force next step is now to gather more data, to do more studies, to come up with better solutions of how we're going to do this that makes sense and recommend to the membership what we should do. And I'm not going to be on the board. We got a new general manager. Hopefully the new board, new general manager will have a series of focus meetings with all the clubs and the committees and present all these factors to you before a decision is made on which way to go and how to go there. Okay? I'm not concerned that this process is not moving faster. I would rather do it better and right than do it faster. So if people are saying, well, now you have to wait another year, that's okay. Let's do it right. Let's not do it fast. So if it's not perfect in your minds, it's not perfect in my minds either, but I think we're going the right way and we're not spending very much money coming to these conclusions. Hardly any money. Now, with a new board and a new general manager, the task force is going to be reformed. Some of you know that our key guy and driver and factor in that thing, Ted Maroney, had resigned from the task force a couple weeks ago, and I'll be leaving it also. But when the new board forms, the new general manager's in, if I am asked, would you help out and will you be involved? If I am asked, I will do it. Ted, will you step back up if it's okay? So I'm confident we're on the right track. I'm confident that maybe we haven't shared what we're doing with you as well as we can, because in my opinion, the work being done, the staff work being done, is being done under a microscope. It's being done with Nancy Powell from OC Today watching us. It's being watched by Joe Reynolds with his critical eye and giving us advice. And if you operate under a microscope like that, you're going to get things reported of what's happening when really it's premature, okay? So bear with us. I have confidence this board is going to work out, and I have a lot of confidence that Bob Thompson understands it and will be the driving force of this and not the board. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is committees. The board has attempted to empower the committees more and to listen to the committees more. I don't know how successful we've been. I know a couple of committee chairs have shot at me real bad, and yeah, we can take it. We got helmets and flak jackets and stuff. But anyway, the fact that they're coming back at us that means we're communicating, at least in some manner whatsoever. But I think this trend will continue. We have 2 executive council meetings every year, and I try to send emails to the committee chairs to keep them advised. Sometime that could be a mistake also, but anyway, I just want to thank the volunteers, because I believe this community and its volunteers, this membership and association with its volunteers it's what makes us better. Okay. Next thing I want to talk about is outsourcing. We're talking a lot about outsourcing golf, outsourcing food and beverage, outsourcing both. We have had, because we're talking about it, we have had one entity from the area submit a request for leasing. That request is being evaluated. It's not being rejected, it's being evaluated. And the team evaluating that is our treasurer and 3 members of the association who are evaluating that and will report back to the general manager and the board as to what those findings are. 4 companies have expressed an interest in getting a management contract to outsource golf, and 3 of those would also like to do food and beverage. We are evaluating those proposals. Before we started on golf, we asked the new Golf Advisory Committee, should we outsource? That wasn't the question. Should we pursue and examine the outsourcing proposals? The answer was yes. It was mixed, but the answer was yes. We are doing that. We are examining these proposals in detail. The team has visited the sites, talked to the board members, talked to the people who hired them, talked to members, looked at financial data and all that kind of stuff. I have not received the report of that group yet. Okay? Do I believe we're going to outsource food and beverage or both? I do not know. But I guarantee you that I have confidence that the details of this are being examined very closely and will be reported back to the next board and next general manager soon. Okay? The next thing I want to talk about is the Gillis property and the facilities being planned by Mr. Gillis and his company north of Route 90 and south of the North Gate. There was a BZA hearing on Thursday. That hearing had little to do with with anything we could do about the impact of that site. That hearing was a hearing on what he could do in the C1 zoning and whether he could have a bigger building. And it was, anybody attended, anybody knows the rules, it was inevitable probably because of the rules the way they're written that was going to be approved. Okay, the issue for Ocean Pines is, do we want to support that by incorporating whatever Mr. Gillis plans to do into Ocean Pines, which he has offered, and do we want to allow him to pay for our new bridge at the north entrance, and do we want to allow him to build a road going out so he could have easy access out? Because now all he's got is right turn in, right turn out. That is an issue Ocean Pines has to get involved in. That is an issue we have to have public hearings, in my opinion, and talk to the people at Don Isle and all that kind of stuff. That's an issue we must address. And hopefully the general manager will deal with those people and arrange that to happen in the next few months. Okay? And the last thing I want to talk about is compliance with the Declaration of Restrictions. Now, we went through a process for the last 3 years and took a book of resolutions that was about that big, which nobody read, and narrowed it down to about that big. In the process, we went through examining our policies. The purpose wasn't to make it smaller and clearer and take out all the legal whereas and therefores, but the purpose was to examine our policies, okay? Now, we last fall went through the toughest one, which is compliance issues. Compliance being getting this place looking better and enforcing rules around here. And we had a big special meeting in the fall and all that, and we came up with a new resolution, which probably nobody reads, including anybody who reads these things. But anyway, here's what it says, and here's what it means. It is the intent of the board that the general manager and the CPI department or staff focus on those violations that significantly detract from the appearance of the surrounding neighborhood, present a health and safety risk, and or detract from our members' property values. That is what this outgoing president and this board wants management and the CPI department to focus on. That doesn't mean that they can't worry about unregistered vehicles and improperly parked trailers and signs that shouldn't be put up and fences that may be in violation. Those things must be looked at. We can't allow that kind of stuff to go on. But is Al Bogdan here by any chance? I heard just the other day that there's an abandoned house on the end of Windjammer that I never heard about that he's been trying to get some action on that house because it's unsightly for a long time, and we haven't done it. Now, I'm not sure we can do it, but that's what I want to focus on. Two ladies came to me because they heard I was a new general manager and thought I might act on it, and they came in there on Monday maybe, I don't know, when was it? And from Seafarer, and brought to me some photos, and they said, and some letters that started in 2006, and they said, this is awful, why do I have to live next to this? Well, I agree with them, but there's a lot of legal things you got to consider, and someone's personal property is somebody else's trash. But we all know it when we see it, but we got to talk to Joe Moore, because when he goes to the judge and the judge says that rusty bicycle is not trash, we got a problem, right, Joe? Possibly. But I got to tell you something. My expectations are higher than that, and I think we need to go after these people when you got 4 or 5 people in the neighborhood who think who don't want to tolerate this anymore. There's a house on Sandy Hook that maybe you all know about, that it took us 3 years to get action on that thing, and it looks pretty good right now. But that big Dirty Deeds truck is started parking again out there, and he's still dumping carpet cleaning refuse on the street and in the yard, and we found out about it the other day, and action was taken. Okay? So our CPI department is doing a lot better. I think they're doing a damn good job. I know the ARC people who make these evaluations, I think we're in sync, are we not, Chuck? But it's easy to go after license plates and trailers. It's not easy to go after a subjective thing like somebody's bad property. But that's where I believe we need to focus our efforts, because in 15 or 20 years, this place isn't going to look much better. It's going to look a lot worse if we don't focus on this. Okay? That's the end of the general managers and the, where's my schedule go here? Where's my agenda? Old business is next, okay? Is there any old business? No, good. Is there any new business? Is this a time to take new business, or is it during, yes? Mr. Ringsdorf, please state your name and address.
Gene Ringsdorf, 2 Carriage Lane, and according to the people at this registration table, I am the #1 property owner.
Gene, are you going to be brief, or you want to come up here and talk in the microphone? Thank you.
In the future, I've been coming to a lot of these annual meetings, and we've got a wonderful report from Mr. Hall comparing actual results from the current year with actual results of the prior year. But all during the year, all the management ever focuses on, and all that we get periodic reports are comparing actual results to budgeted projections. I would like to see in future annual meetings, in addition to Mr. Hall's report, a report that tells us all what we did versus the budget for the year. Because it would be more meaningful, I think, than just what we did versus the last prior year's actual result. And I'm still #1 property.
Is that the first time you've ever brought that up, Gene?
Probably.
Okay.
I'll wait another 10 years before I bring up anything else.
All right. Any more new business? Good. I've been trying to delay this as long as possible, but I guess it's time for the open forum. Do we have any members who would like to make comments? Yes, ma'am. Would you check that mic and see if it's...
Star Spangled Banner? No? Is it on?
Yes.
It is on? Okay. My thing is the alleged progress that we're supposed to be going into.
Would you, excuse me, would you tell us your name and your address?
6 Admiral Avenue.
And your name?
Mary Ann Bruce. Okay. I come from D.C. I got some sympathy here. But I lived there for 53 years, and I raised my children there. And when I first came there, it was a sleepy government town that You know, you could walk the streets. Then it became the crime capital of the world. It had that distinction. Now we are in this progress thing, and I'm wondering where we are heading, because DC didn't become the crime capital in a short time. It was over a period of time with all the progress that they did, and we are doing the same thing here. Progress. We're expanding everything. People come here and they like the amenities, but the amenities aren't big enough and spread out enough, so they have to enlarge on that. They don't like what our restaurants are, or golf ball, or whatever, but they want to expand on that. But like they were back home. Why did they leave back home if they don't have, if they came here to get away from that, which I did. I can walk the streets here. I couldn't do it in DC. And I was in law enforcement. But still, all this building and expansion, and why do we need 4 more medical buildings at the entrance of Ocean Pines, and to tear out our notable bridge for progress for the summer crowds? You know, people come down the parkway at 50 miles an hour to get to the red light. You know, and so we are backed up. I went out today and we were backed up. But that's the summer crowd. We don't need all that expansion. Let's retain what we have. And if he wants to build on that property, how about a wildlife refuge? I know he won't make money off of that. But it'll be less of an eyesore. And 589, the beltway around DC was 4 lanes. Now it's 6, and it's still bumper to bumper. So the more lanes you put in, the more traffic you have, and the more congestion. And the people come from 113 to 50, and they just fly through. They don't stop here. And we have, at the Pavilion, we have empty office space there, medical, that hasn't been filled. And yet he wants to build 4 more. Are there so many sick people around here? Do we, you know? I don't know. But why destroy the bridge and the ambulance we have here for some man who wants to make some money off of it? Let's put a wildlife refuge in there and bring back the animals that have been displaced due to progress. I don't go to the medical buildings, you know. I don't even go to the stores at the new shopping center there, because we have stores. They're just duplication. So we have medical buildings across 589. We have medical buildings at the Atlantic General Hospital. There's a big medical complex behind the food line on 589, or on 346, excuse me. So why do we need more? We have it, so why duplicate it? To destroy our area. No, let's keep it. I came here to get away from all that. I did. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Al Pop, 182 Seafair Lane, Berlin, Maryland, 21811. I respect the director's decision in reference to Tom, but I just would like to say one note. The existence I have with him was, may the hinges of friendship never grow rusty. He did some good work. I implore Bob Thomas, I respect him and I think he's going to do one fantastic job. The only thing I ask is if he does it for all the people and not the interest groups. And that's a big factor. Next, concentrating on the yacht club, my feeling is I've been assigned to go to the yacht club from the sports corps due cause to the repair and cleaning of it. Since I have gone, I've been harassed 3 times because a drinking is allowed in the pool. I'm leaving that up to Mr. Massey in the future. I feel that we could repair that yacht club. It is worth repairing. We did put $1 million in it, and I think it's worth repairing. Concerning the pools, I'm a pool member, and I really resist the 24 plans that we have to accommodate non-members and out-of-towners. And I just feel if we have the $7 across the board like they do at the yacht club, rather than the $2 sit, the $3 at 4, $5 at 5, the $8, the weekly passes, on, are these plans, which hinder people buying the passes. And it would also help with operating and getting into black on winter time. Not a golfer. On that, I think you just got to play to stay. You got to, simple as that. In reference to golf, golf is so competitive down here, it's unbelievable. And I think the idea of renting the golf course, not selling it, rent it out, and it'll be beneficial to the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Carol Ledwig, 5 Sandpiper Lane, Berlin, Maryland, 21811. And I'm also a #1 property owner. On behalf of a lot of people that we need to get over the emotional issue of the recent process you went through to, at the last minute of this board's term, to terminate the general manager and put us a little bit into, hoopla over that. I do have a question. Do we still pay the general manager that we terminated, or was he terminated on the spot? I mean, money.
Let me answer that, Carol.
Sure, thank you.
I'm going to try to. His agreement. State law now requires us to reveal the salaries, right, Joe? We have to do that, okay?
Right.
But the rest of the agreement, when someone signs an agreement, the benefit package and the severance package and all that stuff, at his request, I believe, although it wasn't signed by me, it was a few years ago, is stated personal and confidential. For me to share that information with you, I'd have to get his permission, because that's not, I just can't do that, okay?
I was just wondering if it was costing us double, because we have to hire a new general manager and possibly fulfill some payroll issues with someone that was just terminated. And then the other expressing a discomfort is in the way that it was done. I mean, we all respect that, although we've been through some issues and financial reports that say that the general manager may have been doing a decent job. We were not in clear and present danger by allowing the general manager to stay. But the part, I think the part that we can't overlook, I myself can't overlook, and other people, is that it just didn't look good. Nothing against Mr. Thompson, because I do think he can do a fine job. But there is a concern there about, as a Worcester County Commissioner, they say there's not a conflict of interest, but let's face it, he has the majority of Ocean Pines. That commissioner has the majority of Ocean Pines in their voting district. And would he have to recuse himself if something came up? Because it is, in some people's minds, a conflict of interest that he's would be the general manager of Ocean Pines at the time, and how that would be respected by his fellow commissioners. And the other is just to say that it just didn't look good, because it seemed to be too rushed, and that the chess pieces that were put into place, that's what we see, the fallout. That a board of directors, a president on his the last weeks of his term, does this, and then it is a board member who already was expected to resign if he gets the Worcester County Commissioner seat. So that is who is now our general manager. It just doesn't look good. If I worked at a company and tried to pull that off, that's what we're saying from outside.
I
it just
understand.
doesn't look fair. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. No, Dutch, Dutch, come on up.
A whole thing, 12th Lord guy. Mr. President, if I don't speak up today, you have no meeting. But let me say first to Mr. Rico and Marty Clark, I thank you both for the good job you both have done. You and my staff, we had some disagreement, we settled that, and I'm glad about that. He was a very nice person, and I was glad to talk to you. The only thing, I have talked to you about the yacht club. I'm still not what you said about the yacht club. What we're gonna do, nobody knows. Are we gonna rebuild it or what? Before we do anything, I wanna ask the board, if we put a referendum out, to ask the people on Ocean Pine, or Ocean Pine wants to stay in the food business. Ocean City is not in the food business. Berlin is not in the food business, except Ocean Pine. A lot of people don't like all yacht club, and it's very well known. And I hope before we make a decision to rebuild it or what to do, that we ask the people first that question. The second, I want to ask you, and I have talked to a lot of board members, got a little acquainted about it. Our bylaws are pretty old, 45 years. We still got that 20% what you people can spend a year. Our budget is pretty big. 20% from our budget is a lot of money. If we had that cut down some years ago, the swimming pool, the covered swimming pool never would be built without a referendum by the people. I got nothing against the swimming pool that it is there, not to mention that some guy mentioned he wants to break it down, but it's ridiculous. But I like to see that you people of the new board check into that 20% and let us vote on it if we can bring that back to 10%. And another thing I want to say, with that swimming pool too, what we had a lot of people a couple of years in the board to spend millions of dollars here. Cover the swimming pool and everything went on. And then when they got the thing what they wanted, they moved out Ocean Pine, they go to Florida. I hope so that you're not going to Florida, Mr. Walker.
I'm leaving next week.
But anyway, that is the only thing I got to say, and I hope that we get a better future here at Ocean Pine. And, we have to pay for what we got, but, everybody's cutting back. Let Ocean Pine cut a little bit back too. That's all I got to say. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Morning. My name is David Deutsch. I have property on Canal Road. Okay. Some comments about the selection process regarding the new general manager. I'm not even sure selection process is the right word. After you dismissed Mr. Olson, which was your right, because he clearly is an at-will employee, the board appoints one of its own members as the new general manager. Perhaps you selected the best person for the job. But the stakeholders, the property owners, have no way of knowing. No way of knowing at all. The selection of the general manager in this way, to me, and I'm sure to others, and I echo the comments of Ms. Little before me, gives the appearance of a backroom deal. I'm sure I'm not the only Ocean Pines property correctly or have used the board's action in selecting one of your own as the new general manager as having the appearance of a less than ethical insider arrangement. You know, in a way, it almost suggests an analogy to how some of the countries in Latin America operate. Look at Cuba. Fidel gets sick, who takes over? His brother Raul. Pretty good deal. Don't we deserve the best general manager? Why would you not held an open recruitment for the general manager position? And if the best, most qualified person was found to have already resided here in zip code 21811, well, that's wonderful. Hiring local is great, but you have had no way to determine whether you've got the best person for the job. Why the rush? A second point, I read the comment that was posted online by the new general manager that he feels he can do the general manager position here and serve as an elected county commissioner. I wonder whether that can really happen. I wonder whether Ocean Pines will be at a negative position, because I don't see how the county commissioner can be serving Ocean Pines when he's at county commissioner meetings in Snow Hill. If this position over here in this office is a full-time position, I don't know how that person can, if he's elected, can serve in both positions. Now, there may be a legal opinion or a verbal comment by the county attorney that there's no conflict of interest, but I don't know how a conflict of interest can be determined until a case arises or a situation is confronted by this gentleman. So how many times would the gentleman have to recuse himself when there are matters involving Ocean Pines? Clearly, we don't know that. How often will that general manager be engaged in county business while in his office right across the way here? And, you know, and when folks call who are constituents and want to talk to that county commissioner, that's detracting from his efforts as your general manager. I hope it works for the sake of all of us. I wish him the best in his endeavor as general manager, and we'll see what happens at the ballot in the fall. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me make a comment here, okay? My time is your time. I could be here as long as you want. I'm going to answer him a little bit in the process, and then I'm just, you know, I felt that if I took over the position of general manager, or anybody on a short-term basis took it over like it's been in the past, if it's an activist, you know, if anybody knows me very well, you know that if I'm going to be in there for 6 months, I'm going to start doing things, and I'm going to see things that I think need changing, and I'm going to do it. And that's going to cause a little bit of consternation in the staff or whatever, okay? So I'm in there for 6 months, and a new guy comes in, and he comes in with his changes and stuff. So I see a year of turmoil under the normal scenario, or a year of nothing until you get in lockstep ready to go. So, you know, I explained that. Now, you don't have to agree, because that's okay. As far as what this gentleman said, those are all concerns that I shared and that you share, but we made the decision. If you want to continue, every one of you who are concerned, and I respect your concern, to continue to come up and say the same thing or something like it, that's okay. But I heard you. I don't know what else to tell you. I felt it was not only our right but our obligation to take the step. I cannot share those details. Mr. Olson has shown a lot of class in this because he has kept quiet, and we need, and the board need, to keep quiet about it, okay? So I can't say much more. I can't respond. It's done. And you all can continue to bring this up if you want, but I don't know if everybody here wants to continue to hear it. Yes, sir.
My name is Joe Green, Dean Joe Green. I live at number 8 Montclair Court. I live at number 8 Montclair Court in the park. I am on the Board of Zoning Appeals, and the young lady who is from Washington, D.C., I was born and raised in Washington, so I know. The decision by Mr. Gillis came in and presented his case with Mr. Cropper. And how many people in this room that were in that meeting that other night on Thursday? So I see 3 hands.
A few more, but okay.
We had a room full of people there, and there was one man who lived on Ocean Parkway. He was the spokesperson for the, I guess, for the people in that room. And we had a petition. And I was surprised that no one sitting in that audience, I think 2 people stood up and spoke against the complex being put in there. Now, this was in Ocean Pines, and no one from Ocean Pines, other than the people who were there, spoke up and said anything against it. I asked Mr. Cropper, I says, why do we need another facility in Ocean Pines when we are surrounded by them? And his answer was, there is a shortage of doctors. And the question, I think, in my mind, was thinking, the reason we may have a shortage of doctors is because there's not enough facilities for them to do their practice. Now, I don't know that to be a truth. Also, he said it's hard to find zoning in this area for that particular type of complex. And those were the answers, but like I said, I was very surprised that it wasn't enough representation from Ocean Pines to be there and speak up for the people who live in the Pines. So we had no objection to his plan. He had a nice plan. He spoke out about what he's going to do and not and say anything bad about the whole area, but no one spoke up to say, why are you going to do this? How come this is going to be this way? What's going to happen here? And so our board, we couldn't speak up and say, address any of the questions that people in the Pines had. All we could speak and say to is Mr. Cropper and Mr. Gillis. And there again, you know, we don't want that baby, but no one really spoke up and said why they didn't want it. So it will be done, and we're not going to be happy with it, but maybe we will be happy with it. But, you know, we got to go that way, and that's, you know, like I said, I was really surprised there's not enough representation from the park. I mean, from the Pines.
Thank you.
Okay?
Yes, Mr. Katz.
Mind if I speak from up there? I don't.
Come on up here, Norm. Are you going to be brief?
I'll try. Good morning. Whoop. Good morning. My name is Norm Katz. I'm at 10 Holly Court. The board, does everybody hear me? Okay. The board voted to adopt the Yacht Club and Country Club recommendations of the Facilities Task Force. Now, I know the board meant well. However, they approved the recommendations of a non-elected committee that they appointed, and then they also populated that very committee. It kind of stacks the deck. Ted Mahoney, I'm not sure if I'm, pardon me if I'm not pronouncing your name right, but in the most recent Ocean Pines report, Mr. Mahoney states that it's most important that we arrive at a solid decision that best serves our community for the next 40 years. But I don't understand how that committee or the board reached the conclusion to raise the yacht club and rebuild the yacht club without asking the very people that will be affected and that will be paying for it. He goes on to also state that well, I've lost my place on this because I'm kind of ad-libbing and I can't do that too well. But the point is that I don't believe that the recommendations that were adopted reflect the wants and the needs of the Ocean Pines homeowners. I think we should be putting some more input into this. Therefore, I would like to make the following motion. It is the desire of the Ocean Pines Homeowners Association that before moving forward with any plans for the yacht club and or the country club, or formulating a referendum for those facilities, the Board of Directors conduct public hearings to obtain community input. So that's my motion. I hope somebody will second it.
Second motion.
I don't know how you proceed with this.
First of all, I want to advise everybody that any motion made and passed in this kind of assembly is advisory.
Well, that's why I use
Now,
the
however,
word
I'll second that motion. Is there any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed?
Well, let me give the motion again, and the reason I use the word desire is because I know that Mr. Moore has said in the past at meetings like this that there's nothing binding. We cannot bind the board to do this. So I use the word desire, and I'll repeat it again. It's the desire of the Ocean Pines Homeowners Association that before moving forward on any plans for the yacht club and or the country club, or formulating a referendum for those facilities, the Board of Directors conduct public hearings to obtain community input. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more forum comments? Yes, ma'am. You can come up here.
Doris Lloyd, Lot 14D8. I'm concerned about the appearance of Ocean Pines, and in compliance with your new resolution, it's illegal to put signs on mailboxes. The post office does nothing. Why can't we do something to prevent all these ugly signs on our mailboxes? Even if everybody here tears them down and cleans them up, it would help. Thank you.
Thank you. I saw somebody taking notes back there in the back. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Pat Hall, 6 Avon Court. My concerns seem very small with all these bigger fish to fry today, but it has to do with the yacht club pool. I know a lot of you probably don't go there, some of us do, but the condition has gotten really poor each year. We have umbrellas that are put up broken. The wooden slats are hanging down. I almost got my eye poked out several weeks ago. The rail going down into the pool, you can lift it up out of the cement about 6 inches. I asked the lifeguards, I said, has this been reported? Oh yeah, we put in a work order. These are safety features. The other thing that's so ridiculous is you've got the sports court pool over there where kids mostly swim. You've got 40 lounge chairs there that are not used. You have 10 new umbrellas there that are not put up because the kids are in the pool. So I talked to Ginny Reiser, I talked to Mr. Olson, he did come out and look at it. When I talked to Ginny, it was like same scenario. I said, if you're in charge of the aquatics, why aren't you coordinating this instead of just, whatever? You have Public Works here that could easily fix the umbrellas that are hanging down instead of cutting the grass, because we don't have any grass to cut. So I hope that somebody will take this seriously. I asked Jenny, she said she ordered new umbrellas. I said, well, when did you order them? She said June. I said, June? Well, when are they coming? I don't know. Well, as of today, they're not here. Thank you.
Thank you. Dick.
Yes, my name is Dick Beatty, and I live at 501 Tidewater Cove here in the Pines. And comment that I would like to make is that I've been watching historically now for the last few generations of general managers that have gone through here. And we have a tendency to practice what I refer to as piñata management. Now, what is that? Well, you know what a piñata is. And you know what happens. You beat on it and beat on it and beat on it until the stuffing falls out. Is that correct? Okay. Now, my point is this. I'm not here to debate whether or not we should have released the current general manager. I personally think he did a pretty good job. But what I do want to point out is that we have this history of having a general manager reporting to 7 different bosses, all of which have their own opinion as to what is important. And if that general manager is not doing what I consider to be important, he's not performing his job. And yet when he does what I consider as a board member to be important, and he's not doing what you consider to be important, he's not doing his job and should be fired. We need to discontinue this type of management. And what we need in its place is some work by the board to establish measurable goals and objectives that are agreed to each year between the general manager and the board, and these need to be measurable so we discontinue this type of management. Thank you.
And Dick is absolutely right. Thank you, Dick. Anything else? Yes, sir.
I hesitate, Colonel, but I just wanted to compliment the food and beverage staff at the yacht club. Over the past year, we've had I'm Ted Lynch, 25 Carriage Lane. I've had 2 kids who work here. I've been here 28 years summers, and 2 kids work at the yacht club. And I have seen, and they have seen, and they no longer work there, immense improvements under Joe Reinhardt. Not being paid by Joe. But he's done a really terrific job. I understand, and you all can correct me, that he's turned the profit loss around by $100,000 in 1 year. And that's awesome. And I just want to say, if you haven't been to the yacht club lately, and before my kids worked there, I didn't go. It's really a great place to meet and greet, and it's a lot of fun, and I understand tonight they have a really good band. So.
Thank you. And if those of you who have not gone to Tuesday taco nights, you're missing something. Really good. Any other comments? Yes, sir.
Yes, Bob Wyman, 2 Ivory Lane. I like to go over the selection process. It seems to be this is a stealth type of condition. 1, the severance pay, the severance package, that seems to be hidden. Why is that? What is that going to cost us? What is it costing me? That has to be addressed. 2, again, going back to the selection process. There were 2 or 3 people that were selected, you being one. Who selected you? Did you select yourself, or did the committee select you? And you turned it down. Somebody else turned it down also.
No, so, that's not true. Nobody turned it down. They're just people that were considered and talked to, okay?
Oh, they considered it?
Yeah, there was no,
okay.
Okay.
Well, you turned it down.
I didn't turn it down, so that's okay.
Well, what did you say? You said that you did not have the time to afford the time. But somebody had to select you? Number 2, that if you did not select it and it was passed to somebody else, he did not select it, it's left Bob Thompson. Now, is that the only way right down the panel? Is he more qualified than you or what? And if you did select it and Bob Thompson wanted it, would it come up to a referendum? Would it be voted for? And these are like to be addressed. How was the selection? How do I know I'm getting the best individual? The resume that you gave for Bob Thompson is very general. He was in the service, he had a business, period. And you're also putting the cart before the horse. He's not elected yet as county commissioner. So we're putting these things, everything should be addressed a little more normally, and again like to repeat the severance package. Does everybody get a severance package? How much is it going to cost? Or is it just a health package, and if this goes on eternally, or that it goes on for years and years and years? But it's hidden. Why can't it be up front? And that's enough.
Any other comments? All right, now I will turn it. Yes, yes, ma'am. Oh, you too? No, go ahead, Art.
I'm Art Sachs. I live in Florey, Bluebill Court. I've sat here and listened to the comments about the selection process for the new general manager. And in some respects, there is reason to feel uncomfortable. But I have the greatest faith and confidence in the people who did the selection. I think it would be improper of us to ascribe ulterior motives to men who have had good honor and have done well by this community and continue to do so. I think what they did was expeditious. I didn't like what they did. I had the greatest respect for the previous general manager. I've addressed that publicly. But now I think it's time for us as a community to move on. Ocean Pines thrives on divisiveness. If you say the sun is out, 5 people will run to the window. So it's time we begin to come together as a community. Surely all those people who don't like the process, I think very few of them cannot like the person selected. I personally know Bob Thompson. I think he's an excellent candidate for this. I think the process was unfortunate and creates problems for him which he probably could do without. But he will overcome these problems. He'll bring this community together. And what I'm asking is for Ocean Pines to do something it's not good for. Come together around the general manager to support this.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, I'm Betty Harvey, 37 Seabreeze, and I have 2 comments. Usually I'm fairly quiet at these meetings, but the Swimming Racket Club is the best there is. I love it. Before you even fixed it, I loved it. I love going there and watching the grandmothers with the grandchildren and the parents with the little ones. Well, I'm a senior citizen, and my husband and I can't go there anymore. We can't get out of the pool. You have those little ladders, period. You used to have a big thing that you could hold onto the sides and go in. No more. We got in once. That was enough. So if you could do something for the grandparents and the senior citizens, that would help.
I made a note here, ladders for old people.
I like that. I'm 74. Okay, second one. The north entrance, when we first came here in '86, and we're not full-time members, but we do own here, it was a quaint little bridge. It was kind of rickety, and it was in need of help. So then they cemented it, which made it very nice, but it still wasn't that beautiful aesthetically. Then, when we came back this year, it was, holy cow, what did they do? The flowers and the plantings were magnificent. Why are you going to change it? You finally got it gorgeous.
Is Nancy Weber your friend by any chance? We're not going to change it before we have a lot of public hearings and a lot of community input and all that kind of stuff. I hope, anyway.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are we ready for Diane McGraw yet? Okay, Diane. Listen, I just want to thank you for allowing me to serve, and it's been a pleasure, and I wish the best for Ocean Pines. It's my place.
I'm going to call my Ocean Pines Elections Committee members up. This is Kay Gibbons, John Topher, Kathy Munsey, and Mary Kay Allgood, who was unable to attend today. There are only two of us in the room, like one, that know the election results. And I thought this year, like I did last year, I mailed the election results to the candidates, the 5 candidates for last year. This year, I would like our committee to present at least the ballot envelope to each of the candidates. So with that, would Tom Terry please stand up? Fine. Could you give that to Tom? Richard Handelman.
What's in it?
It's the votes. Would you give that to Rich? Dave Stevens. Gene Lyman. And Ray Unger. I would personally, on behalf of the membership, to thank these five candidates that ran for us. If you could have a round of applause. This is for Unger. Before I present the results, the total vote count for the 2010 elections was 10,082 votes last year compared to 7,725. The Scantron system processed 3,581 votes, where last year it was 4,054 ballots, 3,581 ballots. We processed an additional 151 ballots manually. Last year we only had to process 20. Of which, of those ballots that we manually processed, 226 votes were included in the numbers that we just handed the candidates. During the review of the manual ballots, we voided 31 ballots for the following reasons. 13 ballots were written on, 5 voted for more than 3 candidates, 8 had improper envelopes, and 5 head boxes were not marked. For 2010, the voting return was 43.9% compared to 48.5% in 2000, and in 2008 it was 43%. Yes. So in ascending order, I'm going to issue, it's Dave Stevens with 2,316, Tom Terry with 2,208, we have Ray Unger, 2,162. We have Richard Handelman, 1,986. Gene Lyman, 1,299. And we had 111 write-ins this year. Now, those write-ins might be one individual had 13 counts, but we had a lot of write-ins this year. So these are the official results. Our committee didn't even know the... Here. The vote count. Dave Stevens, 2,316. Tom Terry, 2,208. Ray Unger, 2,162. Richard Handelman, 1,986. Gene Lyman, 1,299, and we had 111 write-in votes for a total count of, how many was the total count? 10,082 votes. That's the ballot, so you all can see it.
Oh, okay.
I can't tell you how hard the election committee works. They deserve a hand. Do I have a motion to adjourn? A second. All in favor? All opposed? The meeting is adjourned. Thank you.